I'll wait for Josh to be ready.
We'll call to order the public hearing on the fiscal year 25 budget, Thursday, April 18th, 2024. It is the mission of the Solon Community School District to engage every student in opportunities to learn, lead, and grow. Chris, can you call the roll?
Yes, Rockholz.
Here.
Valeska.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Student Representative Henning.
Here.
Wolf is absent for the whole night and Coons will be arriving as soon as he can be here.
So we are here for the public hearing.
Correct.
We are entertaining any questions that people might have or comments people have on the published budget, I guess is what we're here for. As a reminder, we used to overlap these with the school board meeting, the changes in interpretation, we have to run it completely separate, so we will do our public hearing. And then we will, so we'll take any comments as long as people have them, and then we'll close the public hearing before we move to the regular meeting, so. I know you had some questions on the tax rate or a comment or something, so.
I'm just gonna listen first and then.
Yeah, so most of it, so the public hearing at the front will be based on what's public, and so this is for people to get any thoughts on it. When we get down to the regular meeting, when we get down to the budget, the action items, then we'll have some discussion and we can, if that's the area you've got, we'll open it up for public comment for you at that point in time then, so. And
We have it
we'll do
scheduled
the guidance
for
from the state.
5:35.
We will wait for 5 minutes in case anybody shows up late that wants to provide public comment. And then normally what we would have done in previous years is we would have just said, is there anybody here? And if nobody was here, we would have moved on to the regular meeting. And then if anybody came with comment before we got to that item on the agenda, we let them talk as soon as they got here. State has said that's not best practice, so we're going to do it their way, even though it makes it more complicated for people to stop it. I told Davis and Adam that if they wanted to talk about track, I had a gavel and I was prepared to use it tonight, so they got it out of the way before the meeting started.
You're all missing a meeting.
Yeah,
But the other two went to Waterloo or Washington.
just 2 relays, 4x8 and the shuttle girls went to Waterloo and they took the throwers.
You understand? Straightforward.
Oh, no, I do not run.
I see you lifted in there though, but.
I don't see you lifting in there.
You know, during the day.
In the weight room?
I'm there at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, I am not there at 5:30 in the morning.
Hey,
She's not running, she's not gonna do it better.
I left in second block.
Are you on campus this semester?
Yes, for my first, and then I have an open second, but I just, cause I don't need the PE credit, but I just left during second, and then I have accelerated Spanish third. And then I have Comp 1 online first quarter, and I'm in that is 2 for the entire semester online.
Online. What class do you have on campus?
Just physics and then accelerated Spanish with Chapa.
Oh, you're not really building much on it.
Just for, I guess, more than I was first semester. But yeah, no 4th block. No, just so I can work.
Yeah, you work 4 o'clock. Yeah,
Usually, Wednesdays right now, but sometimes I pick up.
yeah.
you're still with
That's a great thing you're doing, I'm telling her for. Future and resume and experience. You do it all.
Your plan is medical health.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like to go and read.
yeah.
So do you get, so now you have the CNA, do they opt to strip it off like an advanced CNA?
It's really just your CNA and then LPN. Is the next kind of stuff unless you, I guess there's a certified medical assistant, but that's more clerical work or then it's clinical.
Is that the natural jump, CNA to LPN? And then to
Yeah.
RN, or can you go
Yeah.
CNA right to RN?
you can't, it's just the amount of school, like LPN is a 2-year degree and RN is traditionally 4-year.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
then
only difference.
BSN is,
If that's usually your master level.
yeah,
Like
then
35.
that factor on.
Okay,
Like when there's a practitioner and stuff, it's all like just schooling.
yeah.
And you said we wanted, MU.
Yes.
Doesn't sound well, have a 2-year registered nurse program that you can go ahead and once you complete that, get your license and practice and then continue school to get your BSN.
Oh, they might, I'm not sure, I don't really
They,
research much.
after, you have to be accepted into the nursing program, and that nursing program, to get your RN is 2 years.
But I know some of them are accelerated, so she was year round.
Yeah, could be.
Mhm.
Yeah, we just don't think it's someone.
And I know some programs like that, like, I have a friend who's she's going for a grad tech, to Indian Hills, and the 2-year program, so it's just straight through for 2 years, and then she'll be working.
No semester, no, they do straight through both
I know there's
sides.
just good stuff out there.
Yeah.
And if I recall, you have to have some prerequisite
Oh, yes,
skills and
yes.
classes already completed before you could get accepted into the nursing.
Which she's been doing stuff for all high school, so
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
she was able to do that.
But Kirkwood has, I think Kirkwood also has an RN program.
In RM, they do.
They
have
do.
nursing Program.
Yeah, so
Okay, well, we are at 36 and no one was coming by comment. I'll
Do I need to close it?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Motion by Alaska to close the public hearing,
second,
second by roll calls. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Yeah, public hearing is closed.
Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna stop it and then restart.
Got all the buttons to press.
Okay.
Now I'm going to call to order the regular school board meeting for the Solon School District for the month of April. It is still the mission of the Solon School District to engage every student in opportunities to learn, lead, and grow. Chris, do you want to call the roll?
I will. Rockholz,
here,
Alaska,
Here.
Brown,
Here,
Student Representative Henning.
Here.
Wolf is still absent and Coons is not here yet.
pledge allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to those that have joined us this evening. So it's a few people in the audience. Celebration of achievements. Davis?
Yep, we have them listed and just want to shout out and acknowledge our kids that are involved in art. We hosted this year the Walmack Art Show. There's a PowerPoint, I believe, that Josh sent out to the district that shows projects and place winners, and again, we really had a great showing, dominated.
Could you forward that to the rest of the board? I think it maybe the mailing list didn't include the board.
Okay.
So other board members.
We'll get that
probably
to you.
have it, because they have-
Yeah, I can do this.
And then also, we know, Ms. Limecooler started a, FBLA program, Future Business Leaders Program, and our kids continue to do very well in competition, and we've got their places and, categories where they competed at the state level, and they will be, with approval of the board, some of them traveling to Orlando in the summer to compete. So.
They've always a good turnout at that. They've done well. So
They have.
we've gotten good feedback from the students that have gone in that the competition standpoint. What else we have? Anything else from a celebration achievement standpoint? Bree, anything we should be celebrating for the high school that we don't know about?
No, that was pretty.
Did you go down tour?
Yes, and I saw a few students or classmates of mine who are working on stuff in class leading.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
Focus on learning.
Cassie and I kind of read this one. Yeah,
it was so fun.
so I gave you a handout here, just to overview. Cassie and I on Tuesday, all day, spent time in Cedar Rapids at the Iowa Big, which is the best way to describe it is kind of a project-based learning
Program.
program.
Who runs that?
Cedar Rapids Community School District.
Okay, the school, is there a? Is there some?
You're saying there's nothing.
No, I was wondering, I was thinking the person who was involved in starting that up there.
Was a former Solon
Yeah,
teacher,
yeah.
yes, yep, he's no longer there, but. We got to visit with one of the founding administrators, Trace Pickering. But we visited with three, well, they only have three staff members, teachers who run it, they all have different certifications. And then met with a panel of students as well to kind of get some feedback. There was a couple other another school district.
College community.
Right, College Community and Cedar Rapids partner with that, partner together, and they've had a history of a few other smaller school districts around the area who have sent kids to this, but just in general, Cedar Rapids has also started a new high school, City View High School, which they're basing some of their framework on Iowa Big program. But their basic mission of that program is passion, projects, and community. They described the conversation that initially happened back 12 or so years ago, that there was a missing component with school, and that was community, involving community and community partners. And so we just got an opportunity to really kind of dig in and listen to what the students were doing, what the teachers were doing, history of the program, and basically, the basic concepts and philosophy, which was really project-based. So they really talked about this idea of school, the traditional setting in school, as being decontextualized, where you're learning a lot of different things, but not necessarily looking at it through the lens of a context of what's happening in the real world and putting context to it. So basically what happens is students get credit and they can be involved in the program as long as they want to, or that it fits their needs. But they can earn credit, and they basically make partnerships with community partners, businesses in the community, that these businesses are looking for. They have a problem they want to solve. And they utilize these students to, and they typically have like a project team. And it's a team of about 5 to 7 kids. They take on a project that might be coming to them from one of the partners, the community partners, or they may propose a project, which they call outgoing projects, to basically tackle a problem, and then they come up with solutions. And what we discovered there in the history of this program over the last 12 years, there have been groups of kids who have produced a project or finished a project that was successful, that companies, and I think a couple of national companies have actually taken their prototypes or their ideas and then expanded it out across nationally. I mean, what else?
Well, I think, yeah, you did a great job summarizing kind of what they're all about. Going back to the original beginning, this kind of started as a result of the 2008 flood down in Cedar Rapids, where all of the businesses came together and said, we're gonna build this back, but we don't wanna build it the same, we wanna build it differently. And so after a couple of years, they realized that the missing component of that was also education. How do we not always consistently do the same? How do we do education differently? And so they coined the phrase, the Billy Madison Project, where Billy Madison, the movie, if you've seen it, about how he's an adult and goes into a classroom to kind of get through and get his diploma. Well, they sent about 60 community members into the classroom and asked them to report back what they found. Because prior to that, they said, well, here's all the list of things that we want kids to know and the skill sets that we want them to really pride ourselves on. Now go back into the classroom, do a regular schedule inside the classroom and come back and tell me what you found out. And there were 3 things I wrote down. 1, found out that kids are absolutely bored. 2, they're scared because there's not a smile in their eyes, or there's not a glimmer and hope because there's no really connection to the passion that they're doing. And 3, teachers are working their tails off because they're just trying to do everything they can to meet all of the standards necessary to really ensure that these kids are engaged and checking all the boxes they needed to do. And so they asked them, well, all these things that you said were important as part of, you know, the Building Madison project. Do you feel like schools these days are addressing any of those? Of course not. So that's what was the whole like catalyst to forming this program. We're talking about the Iowa Big program. And so I just think there's so much correlation between our portrait of a graduate and what we want to do and the skill sets that our kids. We really want to make sure our kids have when they graduate, to the foundation of what Iowa Big has instilled on that. And how they flip that classroom a little bit to say standards and content are important, but we're gonna start with the project first. And then because they have teachers that are really embedded and understand their content, then they're going to be able to say, well, as you do this project, that's hitting on this standard and this standard and this standard. And we can demonstrate that if you have mastery, it's a really competency-based program. And you can demonstrate that you have mastery against those skills without having to go through a textbook and the rigor that you normally do inside a traditional classroom. And so it's not for at-risk, it's not for exceptional students, it's for those that want a different kind of classroom environment. And they've had a lot of success, and at the end of the day, Tracy even said, my job is to run big into non-existence. Because ideally, all school systems would have programs like this. Or be able to entertain a very innovative classroom like this, so that big doesn't have to exist for students to have to come to. It actually is woven inside the fabric of schools, so.
How big is it?
About 70 to 80 kids right now, I think, that are involved, and mainly from college community and Cedar Rapids. And like I said, Cedar Rapids opened a new high school, City View High School, which with the same idea and conceptual framework that Iowa Big, probably a little bit more structured. Iowa Big, it's a little bit loose in terms of kids that are coming and going to types of projects. But I think, as Cassie and I were reflecting, it just provides another opportunity or path as you think about ICAP, career and academic planning. I mean, it really is real world projects, and they have to really focus on communicating well, being prepared for presentations to these businesses and partners and corporations. I think the one project that we saw all just had to do with a farm, like going out to a farm and solving a very simple problem. I think it was just picking up, what was it, weed netting?
Yes,
But
they saw weed control.
Right, and they created this prototype of I think a man-powered machine, but then they have all the way up to projects where, hey, we just need somebody to go back and look at all of our data and do a data dig. So which then cross-referenced data analytics and what probability, I think, is what the standards were in business class.
Probability and statistics.
Right.
Standards across the board.
Yep. So, and then anywhere, I think another big project they did a few years ago was planting apple trees out in one of the city parks. And basically, they incorporated all the science standards, they incorporated looking at soil samples, marketing. So it really pushes kids to be engaged in projects. One of the examples that one of the teachers gave was the kids came up with a marketing video, I think is what it was. And they presented it to the teacher. The teacher said, "Are you sure this is what you want to give your partners?" "Oh, yeah, it's good. It's good enough. This is what a teacher would accept. So we'd assume that this is what a partner would accept." And then they presented it to the partner, and the partner ripped them apart and said, "Nope, I need this is not good enough. It's not gonna work. I need you to," so then taking that feedback, reworking it. And then they said, since then, they've really done a much better, thorough job of being detailed and what the partner really wants and needs. So it just gives that real world experience. So really the purpose of our visit was just to learn about what that looks like based on our portrait of a graduate, our pathways that we're trying to create and provide for kids. I mean, I really thought it fit into that internship, job shadow kind of realm that we've been talking about. So that was just a fun day, good visit. especially listening to the kids and some of the things that they're working on.
Questions? Is the previous physics teacher still?
Nope.
No.
No, I think he's been gone for a year now.
So just feedback from a while ago. The guy who kind of jumped off. So some of the students that went through his classes, he really did this in physics. And so, feedback from parents I work with kids who are trying to do stuff is that there were standards that were missed. And then they're going to colleges
Right.
who don't educate kids like this, and then they're going into like calculus.
Right.
And they have all these kids who already had these things in there, so there were some gaps.
So what they really tried to develop is they recognize that, and so they talked about, one, kids still have core classes that they would take back at their home school.
Okay.
So this isn't like I mean, it could be an all-day program, but for the most part, it was kind of split because they had requirements of their core classes back in their home school. Then any standards that they felt they missed, like in English, science, they have built modules to kind of address some of those missed pieces. And so they admit that they don't hit everything, but the goal is that it almost is kind of like a hybrid and looking at it more as a program, but it's like almost like a class that they're taking.
Okay.
And then they still have other things that they're responsible for, because there was a couple kids that said, yeah, I gotta go back and take Spanish 4, Spanish 3, oh, and yeah, I got algebra that I've gotta go back and take, yeah.
There's just
So-
some algebra 2 and like
Yeah.
pre-calculus that if we all are real, we don't use that in everyday life. So
For
that's
sure.
not something that's going to be
Yeah.
something we can demonstrate in a project.
Yeah,
But if you need that for college,
Yeah.
then you have access to that because
Yeah.
this is not a school, it's a program. They don't have all of the other necessary school functions that happen in the here, so.
And we just looked at it as, it's just that opportunity for
Oh, for
kids to
sure.
go experience something different outside the walls of a traditional high school and get some, and honestly, some real world experience of dealing with, okay, if I'm gonna go into marketing where I have to really work on my communication, they really are pushed to communicate with each other, with partners, all that stuff. So it was just,
It's like one of those, you have a problem, you gotta figure it out.
yes.
Right,
It,
one of the steps,
it was very much,
Yeah.
and I think what they described was that they, when they work with the partners and kind of launch some of these things, we want an open-ended problem that you present to the kids. We don't want you to tell us what you want it to look like. We don't want your money. The kids have to figure this out and come and present to you, here's the solution. Here's the product that we think we can create or find for you to solve that problem issue, so. So just that real world experience.
Their enrollment's declining because like they used to pull from Mount Vernon, some students that would come up and attend their programs and share whatnot. But now Mount Vernon has a program like this, or they're doing some of these woven into their classroom.
And college community, I think is separating because they're gonna do something similar, but a little bit different.
and that's what I was gonna ask, because it sounds very similar to the students we've sent to STEM and the academy.
Mhm.
And it's the same sort of open-ended problems they work with community.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
and I know they've been pushing that out, because they've expanded that beyond, because it's a university vital programs for the College of Business, and they've pushed that out. And they're pushing it out into schools. I know we had been sending students down to Kirkwood, and I'd heard, because I participated on that from the other side, and it was that there wasn't much traction from the high school on wanting to do that. And so I'm just trying to
Yeah.
to marry the concepts here,
Yeah.
because Leslie Flynn is the one who leads that on the UI side, and she was disappointed she didn't get any traction when they
Yeah.
broached it with us, so.
I think it's just trying to understand how it fits with everything that we're doing, you know, with our high achievement and high academic standards, you know, expectations. I mean, this is, I would see this as just kind of a branch off of doing something different for kids who might want to try something different, who may not want the traditional route, so. I think there's some at-risk kids in that program for sure.
How aware are our kids?
Well, we have, historically, we had a lot of kids, I think, but I'm not sure where things stand with, on the Kirkwood side, because again, districts were preferring to try to integrate it into their program.
Yeah.
Rather than having it as a standalone class. I know that the kids we had, you know, when I'd be down there, generally every year when it was once, I don't think it was every semester, but, when I'd be down there, you know, because I'd send you pictures from the presentations and. It would be 4 to 8 Solon kids that were down there in a class of, 40 kids.
Yeah.
And they'd be, and so we had good numbers in that, but again, it was more like a standalone class.
Right.
I think the one thing I remember when talking to some Solon kids is like, it was the first class I actually had to worry about failing. After they got that first feedback from the business community, it's like, oh, this is not just check the boxes and.
Right.
And
And that's what they talked about is that they have kids that are coming in that they're so, what is it, were they risk averse? They don't want to fail. That this program really focuses on, no, you're gonna fail and it's probably not gonna, not all of our projects are successful, but. What did you learn about the process of learning? What did you learn about that process that you went through? And how do you reflect on that? And they weren't so much focused on the grade, it really was, we want you to have this experience, but. You're responsible, you're held accountable by your team and the partners, so.
And they were very clear, and not all students are fit for a program like this, and not all teachers are also equipped with the mindset to be able to teach with a function like this. Examples.
Yeah, so Cassie and I just wanted to bring back our learning, what, exploring and seeing what that looks like and.
it'll be interesting to see what Ralph Vernon knows, because he's on their own and probably reach out with the folks on the. STEM innovator site that Kirkwood / UIL and see where things are at on that. I know the ones from Iowa had some support from the US Patent Office. So it was, yeah, it's trying to, it's about, business innovations and how to get kids to take risks and be able to do things that are beyond the narrow confines of the safety of
Yes,
classrooms.
so definitely.
Anything else on? Focus on learning. Thanks for the field trip report.
We had fun. Yeah, pizza. So, lunch.
Good recommendation.
Yeah,
for
really good pizza.
in Cedar Rapids.
Okay, admin report.
3 topics, just to bring you update on the career and academic planning exploratory that we're doing at the middle school. Zach and Mike planned a day, May 1st, where we're gonna bring our high school ICAP team. I think we're 6-7 years into it, that ICAP team. And we formed a small middle school ICAP team. We're gonna bring them together for the day. We're gonna include a team from the AEA that our high school ICAP team has been working with. And they're gonna spend the morning just talking about and going through the high school curriculum in those 5 categories of self-understanding, career information, career exploration, post-secondary exploration, and career and post-secondary decision-making. And so the high school has done a good job of creating curriculum and experiences that are different for each 9, 10, 11, 12th grade. We want to do the same for 6th, 7th, and 8th and have it articulate up through. And so they'll spend the morning together, and then in the afternoon, they'll actually separate out and start designing that curriculum, correct? Correct. Okay. So we're looking forward to that, and what that will just take our ICAP high school team to the next step by infusing it into the middle school and beginning those experiences there at the middle school in those 5 components. Safety, I was talking safety and really following the tragedy in Perry, it really got the admin team reflecting and going back through our safety plan and looking at how things unfolded there and their responses and some things that happened. Just kind of really forced us to go back through ours. So we as an admin team met with 3 officers from Johnson County Sheriff's Department. 2 of them are actual parents, which makes it even better. Rudish and Wisman. And then we include Gingrich what's his role, Jeff? He's got a different role that's more geared towards this. And so we met with them as a team had some questions, kind of threw some things out there, kind of reviewed some parts of our plan more specific to active intruder, to evacuation, to reunification, things like that. And then Josh and I just met with them, the two of us, again, to dive a little deeper into that, some more questions that as an admin team we've raised. Bouncing some ideas off them on how we can enhance our plan. And then talking about some training that we could provide for our staff. Our plan is at the end of the year to expose our staff, give all staff some training in ensuring that they all know how to use the AEDs. That they can do some basic CPR and stop the bleeding. So in those three areas, if we have time this spring, we'll include seizure training. If we don't, we'll include that in the fall. So that's kind of where we're gearing up then. And then we're also starting to talk a longer term plan with these three individuals and we're connected with Dave Wilson from Emergency Management to Johnson County as far as maybe planning a more community-wide that would include our first responders, fire department, and such, partnering with the school to just kind of do a walkthrough training and things like that. But that would probably be, they do that emergency management every 2 years. They come back, they're working with Tiffin now. And so we're gonna, pursue and see if we can't, as a community, get on that list for one of those events. And then the third topic is, I know Zach has, and our counselors that went down to 8th grade, we've gotten a lot of interest from kids who want to, we've got FBLA, which is highly successful. We have a lot of kids that want to do FFA. We have big turnout in 4-H every year and showing at different, animals or projects or things like that. And so we've been in communication with College Community. They've got a nice new facility right across the street from their high school. We met with them last night and we have about 20 to 23 students that mostly are 9th and 10th grade. Next year's 9th and 10th grade. We do have some upperclassmen. And the College Community has been overwhelmingly welcoming. And we met last night. We were kind of trying to iron out some details as far as logistics and how that might work. And they're more than happy. They can accommodate our students. And they were actually, at the end of our meeting last night, their principal and counselors and teachers were going to go back and work on their master schedule to make some tweaks to accommodate us. So we're excited about continuing to pursue that opportunity. So
how would that look to their master's schedule? Because I know you have to take an A class in order to be in FFA, right? So
you have to be enrolled in an ag class, correct?
Right.
Yep. So their master schedule, they're going to see if they can't place that. They're on an AB 4x4 block where we're on just a 4x4 block.
Okay.
So Zach said, he could probably do some things where some alternate or make some skinnies or such, just we're going to work on that together so that our kids could actually travel over there and not wipe out a half day here.
Is that one where you have a bus and pretty much shoot them over together?
Yes, because at College Community, they do not acknowledge 9th grade permits. No driving for 9th graders. You can't park on their campus. So we would have to bus all of our 9th graders over there. They couldn't use their school permit.
Did they have to take it there, or if we had an alternative class? Like, I'm not saying we would.
For their
If we
FF
hired a teacher.
for their- Oh, say that again?
They don't have to take a class at College Community. They could take it in Solon.
By
Is
who?
that
We don't
correct?
have anyone certified.
I know, but let's hypothetically say we did.
Okay,
It's not, just because the program is run by College Community doesn't mean they have to take the class at College Community.
in order to be in their FFA, they have to take the class from them.
From them. Okay,
Yes.
that's-
Now, if we had an ag teacher, then we could open our own
Our
FFA
own
charter. Yeah,
Sure.
but they've got to travel there.
Okay.
So
How many teachers do they have?
2
And what's their kind of number that they've got right?
enrolled in that, I think they had about 50, 60.
So we bring a lot to the table. If we want to-
Bring a lot to the table. And this is something that, you know, like I told them, if we can sustain the level of interest, then, you know, 3 years down the road, if this is sustainable and growing, and we're putting more students over there, that's when we say, hey, this is gonna sustain, and we can look at our own. You know, we tried this 7 years ago with West Branch, and we had 15 that went over, and then it died down to 3. But it was logistics were much more difficult. They were on a 7-period day, and college is maybe a little quicker to get to than West Branch, so. That's where we're at there.
Other questions? I think we're still planning on doing the closed session this summer on the safety stuff. We've got the, as you recall, we can go into closed session, review the safety plans because they're not general public, then we can do that one.
Is that something we can feel maybe physically be a part of some of this walkthrough or?
It's really about reviewing the plans, and so we could have whoever we want in, so if we want folks from Johnson County to join us for it, we could have whoever we want in, but it's really about reviewing the plans with the administration to make sure that when people ask us, we can say, yes,
You're very familiar with them.
we're familiar with them, we have confidence in them, even though we just haven't looked at them in a while, and so they haven't had a change in a while, but with things that have happened recently, they're being updated, it makes sense for us to go into closed session. Between the spring and the fall, to take a look at that stuff. Anything else that have any reports?
Last thing, Mel's been working, she and Holly have been working with the team for playground design at SIS. So we're just got a few more things to maybe talk to a local contractor about doing some excavating and some leveling, but we've got quotes from 4 different companies. They did a very good thorough job as far as including a lot of people and input on the design, and the committee has a favorite. And so we're taking a step closer to getting the playground at SIS.
Is this something that bid?
We put it out
Okay,
as far as this is the dollar amount you have,
okay,
you designed it. So it's basically all $1 amount.
gotcha.
They're just,
How
yeah,
much can I get for it?
so
Right, it's
Yeah.
got a better vision, yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of flipped.
Yeah.
It's not like, give us a playground and we'll take the lowest bid. It's, this is the things we want. You have this much to spend, this is what we want.
It's a sandbox.
Yeah, yeah.
Where do you guys envision that at?
I'm
South
horrible
of
with
the current one.
directions. Do you know?
South
where
of the current one.
is? Okay, yeah. So if you're looking at the building on the front, it'd be right out to the
Left.
side of it, yeah.
That's a good way to put it. So where that art room steps out into that canopy and that, it'll be just right out off that.
That's good to hear. Board committee updates. Anything this month?
I don't have anything.
And we got a bunch of stuff on the strategic stuff with the folks on learning, so. Consent agenda, anything that we need to pull out of there? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. So moved. Motion by Coons, second by Alaska. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously, the consent agenda is approved. We are now on to the first action item, which is the approval of the fiscal year 25 budget as published. Pat, do you want to say a few? Pat, are you in a spot to say words, or are you mainly waiting to hear if there's any questions from us?
I could definitely talk if you want me to, but if you'd rather, I can wait for questions too, whichever you prefer.
Why don't you give us a quick summary? We've got a little audience, so it's always good to go over it.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, this year was a little bit different. We had the first hearing on March 27th. That was brand new this year. That was on the property tax statement that everyone should have received in the mail. We had one person show up to that. Got it, Chris?
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, sorry. And then tonight is what I consider our regular. This is the one we used to have to move up. And now that the deadline is actually the end of April, we can have it at your normal board meeting. I think the biggest thing to point is at the very bottom of this page, the proposed property tax rate, 1628,035. which we've talked about matches our current fiscal year property tax rate. Then some other things as far as looking at, just staying down on where you're at is fine. We have 4 areas that the budget is spent in that are in bold, which you can see highlighted: instruction, total support services, non-instruction, and total other. Now, it might be a little misleading, and you look at this, that does not mean we're going to spend exactly that dollar amount in there. That gives us the authority to spend up to that dollar amount. And one last comment, on the very right-hand side, you can see the percentages, and you might think 110%, holy smokes, that's huge. Go down toward the bottom. Reason that's there is we just started our capital projects. So when we did the budget last year's budget, not there. This year we're having the capital projects. So we're going to see that over the next 4 to 5 years. So that's why that percentage is so high there. That's about all I've got, Tim, unless you want me to go delve into anything.
No, just looking at just looking through the numbers again. When we talk about the excise tax and the surtaxes, those have some bigger changes. Percent wise, any comments on those from 20 years as we look at them? The excise tax has gone up a lot from 2023.
Yeah, that excise tax, the utility replacement, all that stuff, that actually runs through aid and levy. I can't do anything about that. The income surtaxes directly relates to our instructional support levy program. It's funded by 2 mechanisms. Well, it used to be 3, used to be state aid, income surtaxes, and property taxes. Yep. Now it's just income surtaxes and property taxes. So it's just in which year we're on as far as what we're more heavy in versus income surtaxes versus property taxes. Okay. Now last year, that came in late, that money there, that 1 million, that's where we came into Davis and we did some additional purchases. We did the computers for staff. We did a lot more things to spend all of those dollars. So that was just an anomaly, if you will.
Okay. So 2023 was just off.
That was a blip.
We have a community member who may have some questions or comments, so we'll open the floor if you've got something to.
I was just wondering, where I lived before, senior citizens had their taxes frozen at the time they turned 65. And the school district was feeling they were short of money. So then they started adding on fees, which were considered a tax. They were a school fee, which of course raised property taxes. And that happened here.
Yeah, I'll let Pat tell me where I'm wrong, but in Iowa, things are fairly well prescribed. There's only a few things we can control. A lot of things that are in the budget are voted on by the public. So we have the general obligation bond repayment, which is approved by the public, instructional support levy, which is voter approved, EPO, which is voter approved. And then the state sets a dollar amount to spend per student, and there's, the equation tells it, it's like, this is how much you go towards it goes towards your income, this surtax, this is how much goes towards your property tax. And so we really have the 2 things that we really control are the management levy and the cash reserve levy. So those are the 2 things that we can control kind of independently within the budget. And so those are things that we kind of manage to make sure that there's enough money to meet needs. But there's not I think other states do have that thing where you freeze property taxes, but then you give you the permission to add these fees that go directly on that. The school doesn't have that capability. I think that cities and counties have some of that authority to, if they regulate something within their city, they can add a fee on that. I think my dad used to complain about that over in the Quad Cities, which is, they didn't raise my property taxes, but there's a new fee that I got to pay. And so what I owe them goes up. So Pat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have no authority to add any fees off that go directly assessed to the taxpayers.
Yeah, you're correct. Everything you said is absolutely correct, Tim. Like you said, there are only very few things that we actually control, if you will. cash reserve levy, of which we have zero. We don't have any authority. So it's general fund and management. You are correct. And everything else is basically already voted or set by public. So yeah, we can't go in and set any fees. It's all basically a state form, and only thing we do is we put in the state percentage of growth, cash reserve, management, at-risk dollars, and then everything else flows through. We have no capacity to add anything else in.
Any questions from the board?
Motion?
Yep,
I make a motion to approve the budget for 2025 as
published.
Huh?
As published,
published.
I'll second that.
motion by roll call, second by Alaska. Any discussion? Maria, any questions, comments, concerns about the budget?
You don't fire her last time.
Yeah, there's no school board representative slush fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to talk to Pat about that. Okay, we had a motion and a second, no additional discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
So we talked about,
Absolutely.
we talked about the general obligation bonds, that were approved by the public. And it's time to sell more bonds. So we have the resolution directing the advertising for sale, approving electronic bidding, completed an approval of the official statement for said next round of bonds. Any? Davis, is there anything more you want to say about that? It's the standard, what's the amount, determine what the amount for this round is.
10 million. And Tim, on
Not-
that sheet that you have, page 2,
Yes.
after it's motioned, you'll have to read resolution and directing the advertisement of not to exceed. Yeah,
There's 3 of these.
there are 3. Just take,
Extra one this year.
yeah, take one. Flip 2 pages. Sorry. There you go. That's what you have to declare after somebody makes a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution directing the advertisement for sale, approving electronic bidding procedures and approving official statement for the next round of bonds.
Second, motion by Alaska, second by Coons. Says I'm supposed to do this after it's
Okay,
so
yep.
after the vote.
Yep,
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Rockholz,
Here, yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Alaska,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Wolf is absent.
Okay, so that's a 4-0 vote.
4-0, motion carries 4-0.
So I will declare that the resolution adopted as follows: resolution directing the advertising for sale of not to exceed $10 million in general obligation school bonds series 2024, approving electronic bidding procedures and approving official statement
Perfect.
has been adopted by the board.
Thank you.
Does this have to be? Do I sign this or do I have to, or does this have to be?
You sign each of those one time and then I
I wasn't
sign.
sure if this was one of
all the rest, yep.
where we had to do the fancy.
Nope, yep, you can sign those, yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the 2024-2025 registration fees.
Mhm.
Davis, you want to talk to us about those?
Did we have changes?
Lunch.
Lunch was the only.
Adult lunch is all.
Yeah, student lunch remains the same, adult staff lunch, went up. Other than,
Anticipate for
Down,
next
down,
year,
Down.
the breakfast.
Down,
programs
down.
you got, we're gonna have enough. Do that again.
Yeah. I think
Down.
so, based off
Where the hell?
of what we've been.
There you go.
Financial committee with Becky.
we're still very healthy.
Mhm.
They think that there may be the state may change some of the laws because we're apparently not the only people that have issues, but they said there may be a change after next year that allows them to buy a nutrition only van. Well, we'll wait and see what happens on that front. I don't trust the legislation.
Sometimes they get their own.
Don't hold your breath.
If you're like an organization or a company, right, use it at your discretion when you need it. There's obviously a need there.
Yeah, the challenge is it's federal regulation, and how it can be spent. So the challenge we have here is Becky's very efficient. And the result of that is.
And our numbers have gone way up as far as people eating the food.
And the challenge we have with, she's increasingly efficient and more people that buy them. The difference between the cost goes down and the revenue stays, the person stays the same. And so even though we're having to increase adults is because we have to.
Okay.
Rules
I'll make
for
a
us,
note
we
of
talked about whether or not we can keep those the same, no, it has to match the,
Yeah.
there's some federal standards for it, has to be, so.
Do we,
Yeah.
do we get the revenue too off of the like vending machines right outside the weight room?
They do not go in here. They do not.
The fees don't.
No,
But the
I'm
revenue
just saying,
does.
the revenue like.
Does not go to nutrition.
Revenue goes into
Nutrition.
general fund. Right, Pat?
For what?
Vending machine.
The
For the
vending
what, the
machine
veg-
outside the kitchen? In
No,
the-
that's Becky's.
Oh,
And by the way,
That's nutrition fund.
is it nutrition?
That one, I don't know where that one's going to. I know the one right outside Becky's, that is nutrition fund, because she
Yeah, they're
empties
nutrition
those.
fund.
The
Okay.
other one, I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought when we put them in at first they hadn't, they couldn't go in nutrition fund, so we had that question. Is
I
that,
see all this stuff in there, you get more health type food in there,
Maybe
you
that's
get
be-
the
maybe-
whey protein in
and maybe
there.
that's because, maybe it's because we changed what was in there, because.
there's all guidelines and restrictions on what we can put in.
Mhm.
When they first went in, they were the typical sodas and chips and stuff, so maybe when they
Yeah.
changed what went in there, that changed where they're at, I just remember it was. And just confirming, the ones outside the weight room are also nutrition?
That I can't.
No,
100%.
Who owns those, Matt?
no. I want to
That'd be
say,
me,
don't
yeah,
those
but-
run through the vendor?
mm,
The vendor,
Those run through the vendor, maybe. I know that, we have to have them shut off at certain times during the day because they don't meet the food standards that Becky would have. So I would assume they're the vendors potentially.
if the vendor fills them, they would, like the ones in the
Yep.
employee lounges now, those go through the vendor as well. That's gone back to the vendor, so. if
Yeah, I'm
they come
guessing
and
you're
fill
right.
them, typically, they just give us the product, yeah.
Or to get off track.
No, that's
Yep.
good. Any other items in the fees that we want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, I know we talked, about the activity passes, and we also talked with Casey around, what do we do for compensation wise? At one point, we also talked about, offering to see if students would be able to get activity passes at the high school without a fee. I don't know if we wanted to do that, if we didn't want to do that, and if we decided to do that later, what happens if we approve this today? Those are all my questions.
So, all good questions, Cassie and I had a really good conversation with Casey about this a couple months ago, and, obviously we've talked about trying to encourage students' participation and getting activities to support their fellow students, and so the question is, with the balances that we've got, is there an opportunity, for some schools to start waiving the fees for admission for high school students, and so we were talking about that. And the complicating factor in Solon is a lot of parents will sign up for shifts to cover the gate in order to not have to pay cash. And so Casey expressed concern about if you give him out for free, then he loses a lot of his gate workers, and then he's gonna pay for them to cover. And so that was part of the conversation, and we didn't talk again after that about it. But Cassie and I were largely in favor, if we could find a way to make it work, it would be great, because if we can get kids there to support their classmates. I'd like to see it broader, and also reminded Davis, it's like, I'd like to see them be able to get into the plays and the musical for free, so they can support their classmates. So I think it's just a matter of what that looks like, and if we can get it broader than just getting into the, football games and basketball games and wrestling meets, the baseball, softball games. So we have to think about what the revenue implications are. But I think to answer your second question is we can approve everything except that line item and then come back to it in May. So we can separate that out and approve except for that.
Can we approve it and amend it? Like, I don't.
Well,
You could amend it.
you could amend it.
It's easier to pull it.
If we approve it amended, then then as they prep for next year, they're gonna assume it's approved. And then if we change it, they may have already done work on the registration side. So it's better if we say we're not approving it, and then they will hold off advertising that this is what it's gonna be, or putting it in next year's registration packets. Because you guys start on those as soon as the school year ends, right, for next year?
No, not until July, I don't think. Because I don't get it until July.
Well, there's the work that goes on the school side to prepare them stuff that goes out to you guys,
So
so.
if we just basically approve, keep the one item off, then we can talk about it. We got 4 weeks before we get it really finalized.
Yeah.
And that's not gonna
Yeah.
push anybody back.
I'd be curious, what do you think?
Um,
Do you think it hinders students from coming to a game? Do you think it would? If you waived that fee, would more students?
I
What do
don't,
you think?
I don't know, because I think the majority of students who already go are able to, like, their families are able to afford that fee.
Or they already have a pass, probably.
Yes. Or like, I just think it's something that is really common now, but I don't know if it would affect, because I feel like the people who don't wanna go just don't get passes, so I don't know. It's alright,
No, it's a tough question. I mean,
Right.
does the admission hinder a lot of students from attending? And if it does, then it might be something good to
So
pilot.
maybe we could do this. What is the percentage of student population that do not have an activity pass?
I mean, that's data we can collect
Like
and
between the
throw in the
family
discussion.
or they buy their own pass, which ones
Mhm.
did not, like, if is it 50%, is it 30%? Like, I'd be curious to know, and do we really feel if we waive this fee, will that increase, and then our attendance and engagement will increase, because that would be the whole goal and outcome
And,
of what we're trying to achieve.
and we're really talking about 9th through 12th grade students, yeah.
That's what I'm.
We could probably offset it by charging elementary kids $20 per game and
Mhm. One comment,
parents could keep.
one comment,
Outcome strategy, we're going to get.
Okay.
one comment that's important and special to me is we are required by law to have on those student IDs, the suicide prevention phone number. And right now, the kids that get them are the ones that pay for them. The kids that don't get them are, they'd have to pay for us to have them. Get that number in their hand.
You don't get a school ID unless you got an activity pass?
Correct.
we don't get split.
You don't get school IDs unless you pay for an activity pass. So though it's a legal thing for us to have to provide that, the only ones that get them in their hands are the ones that buy them.
That's probably a different.
Yeah.
Then maybe we could do two different ones or something. Yeah.
So,
Just some data that's important to me that.
Do
important to
you
think
want,
about.
do you want to generate some questions? Email me some questions that we could I could get to Casey.
so
If
we
there's
can
questions,
list it, so
yeah,
that-
like what % of our 9-12 students are without an activity pass?
And then my question is are we discriminating against the middle school and, if we just limit it to 9-12, like,
Well, if,
is
I
there a
mean,
way that, yeah.
what would be the purpose of doing this? Is it to, so that they feel free to come at the high school and support the
Remove
basketball?
any barrier
Yeah,
for.
and so we're talking about peers and
engagement.
peers where middle school, 12-year-old,
It's true,
it's different.
it's
So we're talking
Yeah.
classmates and peers go to celebrate.
What we talked about a little bit about is you could isolate, which is high schoolers would get in free to high school events, middle schoolers would get in free to middle school events. And so if you wanted to go to events at the other buildings, then you'd have to figure out whether or not it made sense. If you're middle school and you want to go to the high school events, then you would, you'd get an activity pass. If you're a high schooler and you've got a middle school brother or sister and you want to go to those games and you don't want to pay the $3. What is it? What's middle school, is it $5 now?
5 or 6.
$2 instead of $10.
$2?
$2 if you're a kid and $5.
Yeah. So would you want to pay the $2 or would you want to get the pass? And so, because then again, it's about encouraging kids to support their classmates, right? If you can go and support if you're in the 8th grade and you want to go support your friends who are playing girls basketball, or you want to go to the wrestling, you can do it without having to worry about financial implications. And so I think the middle school would actually be a more important area because some of those are less likely to get the passes. Because the parents may not think about going to the high school things until they get a kid in high school.
And I will say, the ability to have people volunteer to help in my last almost 20 years of coaching. Way to go. And people were more apt to throw money at something than they are to actually jump in and help. At least my experience.
Free.
And so I hear Casey on this, that this is the way I can get workers, and we can't get people to do concessions. Can't get, you know, I mean, it's just a list of things and we can't be done. And it's not, I want kids to join, but I also get what Casey said too, because that is a nightmare.
And what Casey says, I mean, a lot of districts trying to do is paying cash money to get these cover those positions, and so. Like, I mean, I go to basketball sports for more, maybe because of one of the last couple in the conference, that we have volunteers that are covering it there. We're winding up having to pay for a lot of those positions on the sports table.
Well, I think it's getting harder to get shot clock and everything.
Oh, yeah, that's
There's a lot more responsibility.
Yeah, I would agree, not just marketing,
Great people yelling
But
at
you're
you,
No, I
not,
know.
but yeah.
just like a little kids.
I've been yelling at many times.
I
You're not
they
gonna
can cut my face.
right?
What?
You're not gonna have a kid run a shop clock.
No, it's
No.
community, like parents helping with them.
No, I'm just saying, it's hard to get people like it's a whole different set of problems. It's still people to run stuff.
I understand.
Yeah,
I don't see as much of a correlation between waiving an activity fee
Right,
to parents and volunteers at the adult level.
right, but parents at the adult level, if they can get their activity experience, will come and sit at desks and work.
Right,
So I mean.
right, usually because their kid is involved in the sport and they want to be able to attend and watch their kid.
Without pay.
Yes, and they're still going to have to pay or volunteer. If we waive it, so that's where I'm saying, I hear it, but it's not,
Yeah, I think,
I would, let me ask, I'll put some questions together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I think it's a potential side effect. I think we've got to understand what the consequences are, because your point is that for the gate workers, I think, I don't know what still to say, but what it used to be, you have to work 2 shifts to cover the first person on there, 2 shifts for another adult, and then for your kid, it's another shift you have to cover. So if you got a family of 3 and you're fast, you work 5 shifts covering the gate. I think, I'm fine with holding,
yeah, the whole reason, the whole good discussion.
holding the K-12 activity pass.
But approving the rest.
And yeah, so, yeah, if somebody wants to move forward, I think that's the reason why we can get some more information.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 registration fees as presented, minus take out the K-12 activity pass, and we will get that figured out for next month. Yep.
So motion by Alaska to approve as presented with the exception of the K-12 activity pass, which is tabled to May. Motion by Alaska, second by roll calls. We've got some questions that we need to do this, we can answer next month. I can agree, this is one of those times where you're gonna get a homework assignment, which is to chat with some of your classmates and just see if you get any sense about whether or not. Don't go to games, if they attend games, if they have got to do so.
Yes. So.
Yeah, Walmart's charging everybody just a straight $5, then we want to do that too.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up on the agenda. Scroll back up.
Was passenger restraints.
Is first reading of board policy 501.
03.
501.03,
There's an extra.
compulsory attendance.
I was thinking that was an 8.
Okay,
03 and then 7, 11, 10 school bus passenger restraints.
so yeah, let me recap just quickly. So with the compulsory attendance, if you open up what we have on there, we're striking the bottom 2 paragraphs, and that's just because they're very procedural. And we've run into situations depending on the county attorney in Johnson County and taking, they maybe have different we have procedures, but this locks us in, so we'll keep our procedures, but just pull them out of board policy, those last 2 paragraphs. Oh,
Disappeared off the thing. I looked at them
There's a
before.
couple attachments that we can't.
oh, really? Is it because you refreshed it?
I don't know, I'll check. Hold on.
Yeah, they were there at one point.
So basically, it's-
They weren't today.
the paragraphs that we want to strike, the principal will investigate the cause for student truancy. If the principal is unable to secure the truant student's attendance, the principal will discuss the next steps with the school board. If the school board action, the student is still truant, the principal will refer to the matter to the county attorney. The county attorney then, it has, superintendent will designate represent the school district in mediation. The school district will monitor the student's compliance with mediation agreement with the county attorney. These are procedural,
So similar to the other ones that we've been cleaning up,
cleaning up.
we're removing the administrative implementation and just leaving the policy.
Yeah,
This one is recommended by, I'm assuming we're just taking the language.
just taking that language out. Now, we still, with attendance issues, we send a letter home. And if that doesn't correct it, then we have a parent, the administration and the parent and the student have a meeting and try to brainstorm, okay, what are the barriers that we need to help you overcome? How do we get you to school? Following that meeting, then I typically one more, or is it then forwarded to the county attorney?
One more, typically one.
One more, yeah, on where the breakdown, I thought we had a game plan. And then it goes to the county attorney and then it's whatever through mediation to the county attorney, what we come up with. Those are our typical procedures. It's just sometimes with the county attorney may want things done differently. Well, we have it in board policy, we'd be violating board policy. So we just want to do our procedural in.
It just, yeah, you're kind of handcuffed if it's in policy.
Yeah,
If it's outside policy, you have a little more leeway to.
yeah. And we also don't want to be bringing, if we do have truant students to the board.
No.
So,
Please don't.
yeah, so that's that one. As far as the school bus passengers, so what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, law went into effect. So we are now, these newer buses that we're ordering are coming with seatbelts, so we have to have a board policy. This board policy, I believe came from ISB. The one we had in place was very vague and it really put all of the responsibility on the bus driver to monitor that those seatbelts are on it the whole time. We don't want to put that on our bus driver. Now we do evacuation drills twice a year. I know we've got an associate that we hired who's a bus driver for us. She's been taking every elementary class just in the past 2 weeks through bus evacuation and teaching them seat belting and getting strapped and all that stuff. So we do go through training with them, but we're the drivers in this board policy. It says all students will receive instruction, and we are providing instruction on the proper use of the seat belts twice annually. Drivers are not responsible for students wearing seatbelts while riding. Students who may require assistance in using these seatbelts should ask the driver on the bus for help, and so that all students are safely belted. So it basically pulls the driver liability out of monitoring all throughout the route that they keep it on.
He can't control.
No.
There's stops and
I
that's
want
what
his eyes elsewhere.
Yeah, so that's the board policy.
So I can make a recommendation for both.
Yes.
I'll recommend, first reading of board policy 501. 03, compulsory attendance, and 711, 10 school bus passenger restraints. So approve those as presented.
Second. Motion by Lester, second by Coons. Bree, any thoughts?
No,
Okay, as long as we don't have to get in the compulsory attendance, we'll be in good shape. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up is we set a public hearing for a budget amendment. We may have to modify the budget, we don't know yet. But we have to set a public hearing in the event that we have to. If we don't need to modify the budget, we will cancel the public hearing. But this allows us to have a date to do it if we need to do it. So this is about moving around where money is spent in which different silo and pot. And so when it goes into budget, things are in different categories and we can't overspend any of those, but we can move money between categories during the year if we have issues. So Pat is requesting that we set a public hearing for May 16th at 5:30 PM to deal with this event that we do.
That's the regular school board meeting.
Yep, so we like tonight.
Yep.
Motion to set public hearing on fiscal year 24 budget amendment, May 16th, 2024, 5:30 PM.
Motion by Coons, second by roll calls. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Pat.
You bet.
Next up is a reminder to review the VFP handbooks for summer 2024 and school year 2024-25. They are administrative implementation of board policy, so all Davis was odd. And let him know, because those will go out here shortly. We don't approve them, but if you've got questions or comments or concerns, please let Davis know within the next 7 days. So that they can get dealt with before they go out to the public. For the learning,
None.
we have none tonight. Talking points, Bree.
I think it's good to go with all these little opportunities for students coming up.
Cassie.
I mean, I am still on the high, would you say? So.
Yeah.
Well, I just, I mean, the little, it's very dotting the i's, across the t, our budget, all the work that goes into that. Just appreciate administration and Pat for doing that work, and, I know it's not an easy process year to year. The money we get from the state is always different. Our needs are always different, but our students are always different, and tax rates, and the fact that we've been keeping them pretty steady overall, this has been pretty impressive, so.
Adam.
Kind of jump on, hosting the WAMAC art show, kids did well, saw some of the stuff. It's great to see, that being pushed out to the community and parents, so they can really see and appreciate how good these kids are doing and what kind of projects they have, so good stuff.
You guys have left me with lunch. I don't want to celebrate compulsory attendance.
As a celebration, we have the best attendance rate in Grantwood AEA of 33 schools. Often we're brought up, it's because the problem with, what's the term now?
Chronic absenteeism.
Chronic absenteeism, and it's a battle across the nation, and it's a battle across Iowa. And that's something that the state's been talking about tackling, and Grantwood has talked about, because they've got certain, districts, it's like, and we're always brought up, what is Solon doing? Look at how discrepant they are compared to the rest of Grantwood AEA. So our kids do a great job getting to school.
I was just gonna say, I'm happy that you're getting the SIS playground done in advance. We said that wouldn't happen until after the building was right. I'm happy that they found a way to move that forward, because the kids have been anxious to have that for a while, and it's just nice that it's getting done sooner rather than later. The next regular board meeting is May 16th, 2024 at 5:30 PM. That we, shortly before graduation, we'll be approving the graduation list. So,
Well, one last thing, the Solon Economist, Chris has been doing a really good job of getting stories from Solon. Last week, he did a big spread on the agreement we made with the teachers and the relationships in the districts. This week, I think, I haven't read it, but he did a big spread on SIAC. Yeah, so he's really doing some good write-ups. If you have a chance to grab a copy,
That's really a great transparency.
Yeah.
No, I mean.
And if you ever see Chris, thank him, because he really does a great job of getting our news out. Yeah.
okay, with that, I'm going to take a motion to adjourn. So move. Motion by second by Coons. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, we're adjourned.